Last week I showed how you can draw using the new assistant tool in OpenToonz, but you can also use it to help you animate, and I've had some ideas of how you can do that. So that's what we'll look at today. Hello friends, and welcome to a look at animating using the assistant tool. And as always, if you're new here, my name's Darren, and on this channel I have OpenToonz tutorials, news videos, collaborations and animations. So subscribe to not miss them and hit that bell to be notified when I release a new video. And if you're interested in animating with OpenToonz, check out my other videos on this channel, including plenty of beginner videos. So, on to today's video. And since trying out the amazing assistant tool, I've been thinking about how I can help you with your animations, and I've had a few ideas. And I've added a link to timestamp to each of these in the description below, so you can jump straight to each section. The first thought I had was that using the vanishing points, you can draw an object moving around this three-dimensional world. And I shared an example of this on my Twitter last week. So just a little reminder to follow me there to see my OpenToonz experimental animations, and to get previews of upcoming videos, and is also where I share fun animation related links. So just set up your assistants to give the depth of the scene that you're after, and I've added two vanishing points here and a horizontal and vertical line assistant, and then just start drawing your object on each frame. And for this I've just used a block, and I started the traditional way with the first and last keyframes, and then I just drew in between them all. And while drawing, be sure to use the guidelines to make sure the objects all align. And of course, as you're just drawing using the brush, you can use the onion skin, so make sure that you do. And you can see in the final result that the perspective changes as the box moves from left to right. And the next thought I had was, instead of moving the objects around the screen so they change perspective depending on where the vanishing point is, was to do the opposite, so static objects look different. So one reason you might do this could be to animate a shadow on a building or on another object as the sun moves across the sky, or as another light source moves. So you do this using the animation tool. So set up your assistants, and then you just set an animation key on the first assistant frame, and then another on the last frame. And like any animation, you can change the interpolation and adjust it in the function or graph editors. So here's a very simple line drawing of a shadow moving. Now for all these drawings, I've used a simple box and drawn each frame, and used the vanishing point tool, which is fine, with a couple of thoughts on this. Well, obviously you can also animate the line and ellipse tools. So you could animate your ellipse assistant moving around the screen, and then once you've got the pacing working about right, you can use that as a guide to animate a flying saucer around. And you might notice that I use a repeating grid to change the size of the flying saucer, so it goes smaller in the centre as it goes towards the back, then larger at the front. Or you can animate using the line assistant, for instance. Imagine your animation is showing a car driving down the road, and out of the window you see a scrolling background including a picket fence. The line assistant is perfect for this. So another thing to suggest is that you haven't got to use the lines drawn with the assistants as the final lines. You can, and probably should, use them as guides to draw your actual drawing. And what I mean by that is that you won't want to be drawing accurate perspective backgrounds or animating cubes moving all the time, but you can use those as a template to draw into. So for instance, you could draw a couple of guidelines going to the distance to be able to accurately draw your character running to or away from the screen. So despite the poor drawing, I'm sure you get the idea of how you can use the assistants to create a guide to use a guide to make your drawing. Another example is you might want to draw a car driving past, and to not just use the Animate tool to slide a car drawing from right to left. So you might draw a realistic box using the vanishing point assistance, and then draw the box moving from right to left, like this. and then you can hand draw the car inside the box, using the box to show you an accurate perspective of it moving past. Finally, rather than drawing every frame, especially if it's just as a guide for the actual drawing, you could just draw the first and last frames and then use the vector in between tool to draw the rest of them for you. Now the best way for this tool to work well is to use geometric shapes, as I talked about in a previous video. I've got a link to this in the description below. So first I'll add the assistants. And then I'll draw the 2 frames on a Toonz raster level. Now I'll add a vector level and place the geometric shapes over the first frame. So I'll select the geometric tool and make sure that the shape is set to rectangle. And I'll just change the guide, so the guidelines are drawn in red and they're quite faint. So we'll use the control point editor and we'll place each corner on a corner of the guide. And then we'll create a separate drawing on the vector level by using the brush tool, going to the second frame and just applying a stroke. So we'll turn off the assistant tool as we no longer need that. We'll use the selection tool, and on the first vector level we'll highlight and copy all of those shapes. Go to the second drawing and paste them, and then we'll use the erase tool to get rid of that marker line, and using the control point editor we'll move the points of the shape on drawing number 2 to the positions of the points on drawing number 2. And by copying and pasting the rectangle shapes, you've got a consistent set of control points that the in-between tool can calculate the in-between locations, so you get a better in-between. So now we just need to bring up the level strip, and we'll go to the final drawing, and you tap the insert key to insert the correct number of empty frames. In this case I'll insert 22, so I have 24 unique frames to last 1 second. And then we select all the drawings, so click on the first one, scroll to the bottom, hold shift and click on the last, and now get the option to click the in-between button on one of the blank frames. So hit one of these buttons, and it doesn't matter which, and then it'll ask you what interpolation type you want, and ease in and ease out is perfect for us. So we'll hit the in-between button, and now it creates 22 new drawings between those 2 drawings. So let's close that, and we'll just expose them on the timeline, and we want this drawing to ping pong, so it plays from the first frame to the last, then the last to the first again. So we'll just hide the guide and play that. A smooth set of in-betweens showed an object moving in perspective. So that's it, a few ideas of how to animate with the assistant tools. And I'll be back next week with another video, so why not join me then? And remember, if you've got any questions or comments about this, or have your own ideas about how to animate with the assistant tools, why not share them with the rest of the community by commenting below. So that's animating with the assistant tools. There's more to them than you might at first think. Why not give it a go and surprise yourself with the results? And that's a guarantee.